We'd seen the peripheral coalfields closing, collieries in Wales, collieries in Scotland. We tried to negotiate to keep collieries open, but the Thatcher government were hell-bent in closing them. So we went on overtime ban, which then led up to the strike. The government tried to instigate the strike more because the overtime ban were absolutely crippling the coal production.
Thatcher had got an agenda where she wanted to, first of all, get her own back because of the 72 and 74 strikes, which had caused the resignation of Edward Heath, and also as a, I'm going to teach you a lot of lesson, and the rest of the trade union movement had better listen to it as well, because we're coming after you.
It's said that although Thatcher didn't like Edward Heath, she still hated the fact that he had been humiliated, as she thought, by the miners. So when she came to power, she had it in for the miners. She was going to get them. They were going to pay for what they'd done to the Tory party.
We were striking to put food on the table then. It was a financial strike. The 84-85 strike was a strike to maintain us work and jobs for us communities.
On this 30th anniversary of the miners' strike, we remember the industry that sustained this and countless other communities, binding men together in brotherhood and comradeship.
We knew there was going to be a strike, but we didn't know how long it'd last. But all the lads were up for it. They were definitely up for to come out on strike because they believed in the cause. The camaraderie were absolutely brilliant, but the miners have always had that camaraderie, always. There's always somebody watching your back underground. It was a very dangerous place to work. Any accident happened, they were there. They were there for you. They used to carry you out the pit. It didn't matter what you weighed or what you did, they'd carry you miles to make sure you got out that mine. It was like a brotherhood. Everybody looked after each other.
We're going up to Frickley, what used to be Frickley. Me and Bob haven't been together up to Frickley since probably Frickley shut, have we, mate? And got a lot of fond memories up there, a lot of sad times and a lot of good times.
The government was just telling us a load of lies, so we just like, we had to fight.
The first 3 months, 4 months were the hardest because you'd got rent, you'd got the council on your back after your rent arrears, you'd got your finance firms, you'd got them on your back, demanding money and trying to tell you that they're going to take you to court if you're not paid in. But after the first initial 3 months, you thought, well, bugger it. I'm not bothered.
If I'd have gone back to work, these two would never spoke to me again. That means more to me than earning a few bob when everybody else is on strike.
I don't speak to you now.
Because, thanks.
You'd get people coming up to you and saying, don't go back, lads, keep it going. Because nobody thought it'd go on that long. We all thought a couple of weeks or 3 weeks or a month at most, it'd be over with. She was hell-bent to do the miners. Not just the miners, all trade unions. She was hell-bent to do it.
As we're standing on our picket line, which has always been our right, trying to reason with you, comrades, trying to make you see the light. Are you proud to walk on through us, knowing what we do is right? Then get off your knees and come stand with us, and our victory's in sight. So you want to draw your wages with a ballot as your goal, but they're closing pits in Britain while you're still mining coal. And our children grow up thinking there's no prospect but the goal. So get off your knees and stand and fight like our fathers did before. So get off your knees and stand up and fight like our fathers did before. So get off your knees and stand up and fight like our fathers did before. So get off your knees and stand up and fight like our fathers did before.
The first night that the strike started on the Friday. Saturday we had a get-together at a friend's house in Barnsley, and we'd got all these fantastic ideas of what we were going to do to support the families in the strike. The Barnsley Chronicle reporter rang up and said, "Can I come and interview you?" They were asking for names, so we decided Women Against Pit Closures, really. And he said, "I think you might be building an organisation as significant as the Greenham Common Women." And we all laughed.
Women who never expected that they would have to go out to work because they were looking after young children just buckled down and got all sorts of jobs to just bring in as much as they possibly could to support the families. And I mean, they really had to.
David and my husband and I went to the bank for a loan. And the fellow at the bank said, "Well, we know what you do, Mr. Bennett, but what do you do, Mrs. Bennett?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a domestic engineer." So he says, "Oh, you're just a housewife." So David held on to me, as if to say, "Don't say anything." I said, "Don't you ever dare call me or any woman just a housewife."
We are women, we are strong, we are fighting for our rights, side by side.
I never thought I'd be making do the way I do. I never thought I'd be scraping jam instead of laying thick cut ham just like I used to do. I never thought I'd have card in my shoes, aching in my feet and in my heart and in my soul, but I do. I just never thought. I never thought I'd be this proud, shouting loud for me, for mine, for yours. I never thought.
We called ourselves the Coalfield Cuddlies. Dot Ryan, Barbara, Sylvia, Waveney and Margaret Amforth and me. Margaret come one day and she says, "Well, there's a big thing for miners' wives and so we're going to go." Place what we were in were massive because there were balconies and all that, you know. It were a right big theatre thing. We used to do like a strip tease, just stripped down to a costume. I took one stocking off and then I swung it and threw it. No, Dot, she took it off and got it between her legs and we're getting it all this like you see. Place were in uproar. We had men's, you know, pit bannerakers and grey vests and we'd got tassels on and we were trying to make them swing. But it went down a bomb. We got write-ups all over about it.
Well, we know for a fact we were going to get stops. So it was like a challenge for us to get through these big roads and whatever. You make a plan to get from A to B without being stopped by police. Because all we wanted to do was just talk to people and say, "Look, just fuck cause, let's all stick together and let's get something done with mines."
We had to park sometimes 2 miles away from the place we were going picketing. Everybody were like traipsing along the field. You could see like a line of people and we were just like following them across the field, you know what I mean? Until we got there like.
Every bridge had police officers on and watching for cars and taking registration numbers. So they used to have wads of money and they used to wave them on top of bridges like that. Yeah. They'd say, "Keep picketing lads because we're getting loads of overtime." So we used to say, "Yeah, but while you're on overtime up here, what's your lass doing while you're away from home?" So they didn't used to like that one, did they, Bob?
We'd been tipped off the police would be waiting somewhere along the line. We decided to make an excuse up. There are police cars everywhere, just zooming in and picked us up. So I come to the front car, wind the window down, "Sir, where are you going?" He says, I'm going to me grandma's funeral." So the policeman went down, walking, got to the last car. He says, "Where are you going?" He says, "My grandma's really ill in hospital." He says, "I've got some bad news, she's dead."
There was about 3 or 4 lines of policemen, 3 or 4 lines deep. The main street was empty. And all of a sudden, the inspector, who either had a false leg or a wooden leg, and got the baton under his arm and everything, walking up the street like this. And all of a sudden it started at one end of the picket, somebody went, "He's Jake, the peg diddle-diddle-diddle, with his extra leg, diddle-diddle, and the whole picket all started singing it. And he was actually walking to the beat of the music as he was singing it. It was so funny. It was that funny that even all the officers that were there, they couldn't hold it back.
Christmas time, like, it was a motive time, children with nothing, like, you know, people struggling and trying. It snowed.
The vans used to spoil everything. They used to come out and rush in everything, and they built a snowman round a concrete post.
And put a plastic Bobby's helmet on top.
So they built the snowman round the bollard, put the helmet on, and infuriated him that much. I mean, he was seething.
They didn't know that they built it round a concrete post.
And when this superintendent come in his Land Rover, he was looking up and down and thought, yes, I'll have you.
They come out with van to knock the snowman over and hit the concrete post and wrote the van off.
There were no arrests, by the way. They couldn't get fingerprints off the snowman.
Christmas time, that was one thing. We had the French CGT brought us a load of toys.
Lorry after lorry load of toys for his kids. And I also cried when I saw all those lorries being unloaded. It were amazing, you know, you get your head smashed in and it doesn't bother you, but the sight of a teddy bear from French miners were incredible.
And I can remember being asked to experiment how to cook this, whatever it was. And of course it was Russian writing. I hadn't a clue, and I can remember soaking it and boiling it, and I think in the end it was just inedible, so what happened to it I don't know.
Nobody knew what pasta or didn't cook long grain rice or things like that. They didn't sell it here. No, so nobody knew what to do with it. So I experimented with the two boys, you see, and we made all sorts of things.
Frozen turkeys by the busload arrived. I ended up with 2 frozen turkeys. I took one up to my dad who lived out because he was a retired miner. And I said, do you want a turkey, Dad? He said, no, I've got one. Our Alan's given me one. My late brother were also on strike with me, and he'd got 2 turkeys as well, so he gave me Dad one. So I think we lived on turkey till February. My family and dog loved it. He thought he thought it was Christmas every day after that.
It was brilliant that we got so much support. Brilliant. From all over the world, it was incredible. Yeah, really moving, I think, really. Yeah.
We knew that we were getting phones tapped. That's how we were so secretive when it came to going picketing in the morning. We never ever took them by surprise. They always knew we were coming, apart from one time, and that was the day we stopped the Humber Bridge as a protest. South Yorkshire lads stopped at the other side, they couldn't come this way, so the Humber Bridge was closed basically. The police car overtook us, sirens going, and he pulled like the Sweeney, he pulled straight in front of our car. We were in the first car, and he got out the policeman, he went, he had a big smile on his face. Could you all step out the car, all lot of you? And while he was talking to us, everybody behind us had parked up, and they were all getting out of their cars. Of course, there was a tailback of about 30 or 40 miles that way, and the same the other way. We must have been on the bridge for at least 5 or 6 hours. So when they landed the helicopter, the inspector come up and said, okay lads, he said, you've won. That's it. He said, call your men off. He said, and retreat. He said, if you want. And we said, well, we'll just leave it a little bit longer.
People were getting involved from all over. We had 18 kitchens in and around Barnsley. We raised £100 for each kitchen, apart from, I don't know whether we had 2 or 3 weeks during the year.
And when the fella came from The Guardian and said he felt that we ought to be giving them plants and seeds rather than giving them food parts as well. You know, I mean...
Somebody who were in the group lived with, there was a cabbage field, and we started picking them and putting them in these sacks. Next thing we heard all these sirens, and then we saw the headlights coming. So we downed, got on his bellies. They stopped on the street with the cabbage field was. And we were there nearly 2 hours. And then as they were going off, I said, they ain't got blue lights, they've got yellow light, orange lights and lot. And then somebody shouted, well, that's bloody waterboard. I said, and we'd been hidden down there. I said, wow, waterboard. We thought it was Ruddy Place.
And there were about half a dozen of us went up to Liverpool. I wasn't actually looking at anybody because I was that embarrassed. I just shouted, spot the miners, dig deep. All of a sudden I just had to look down and my tin was full. We'd raised about £300 to £400. You'd got people coming up what was out of work, emptying the pockets saying, your need is more greater than mine. And we used to have people coming out at betting shops and all such as that. Yeah, lads, I've had a 10 to 1 winner, and chuck money in the bucket.
Once that London Met arrived on the scene, they were so vicious.
They'd got this saying, you've met the rest, now meet the Met. There'd be the front row of police, and then the second row would be the tungsten guys, the ones with the buttons. So as soon as you lined up against them, the front row would be hold you back, and the second row would just actually come in with the tungstens and knock you down.
I was an active picket up to getting my head bashed in. April the 9th, Cresswell Colliery. I can still feel it to this day, getting back of my head smashed in and being stitched up without anaesthetic under instructions of the police. I just felt an explosion. That's all I can describe it as, inside my head. And I remember just struggling to stay on my feet. 6-7 months later, I appear in court. 7 or 8 policemen all gave different evidence against me. When the magistrate summed up, so I got found guilty of threatening behaviour for having the back of my head smashed in, and I was found guilty of watching and besetting, which was an act from 1600 and something that they dredged up. And they actually charged me with that on the day I appeared in court.
When we went to Orgrave, I mean, apart from being a war zone, it was a nice day. And me and John were sat on the grass, and the police cordon opened up, and the police horses, and they come running through. And I says to John, I says, just don't move, they'll not do anything. I says, we'll just sit here. They'll just run by us. And as they got closer,
started hitting people.
I says, John, I think we ought to get up and run.
We went in jeans and t-shirts, bare flesh to the sun, with flaccid tea and as the bags for our snap. The cops played Zulu warriors as they drummed their riot shields. Nowhere to run, we knew that we were trapped. We went down to Orgrave, I'm telling you, my friend, from Yorkshire under Kent and from the Clyde. We did not go for glory, we did not go for gain. Call your lads fighting for our lives.
You get round the corner and the baton would just miss your head. And there were people in houses going, jump off the wall and get in here, and there were police running in the house and arresting them in their houses, which I don't think they were allowed to do that, but they were doing it, weren't they?
You had to go up this hill, and I was going and go running, and I got this tremendous pain in my chest. I thought, I can't run no more with this pain, and I just collapsed on the floor. But luckily, I could see these dogs. I thought, I'm going to play dead here, like, you know. I didn't move, and I got away with it that way. But they were just ripping people apart. Dogs ripping people apart and braying them, and young men. Oh, these lads that got on were bumpers, pumps on the feet and T-shirts. What defence had they got against a military police? Because it wasn't military precision how they operated.
It were a red hot day, and they're all in full riot gear, these police officers, and we're up front, and they were wet through these bobbies, weren't they? And so they'd ordered, must have been from supermarket, all these cans of pop, and this van pulled up, opened it, and they started passing all these cans of pop. Can you remember that?
You can.
And all pops were going down, so they got the shield and they were pushing all these cans of pop all the way down. And we waited while they got all the way down with these cans of pop. And as soon as we could hear all this psh, 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 we went, right now, so we all ran at shields. They dropped all this pop and we went, just kidding.
Because we'd got spikes on the top of the banner, they took the poles off us, so we said we were going to use them as a defensive weapon. Like. So we went to his local woodyard and bought these 14-foot dowels. I said, Jeff, we're not going to get down London with these. He'd got a orange Vauxhall Cavalier at the time, tied the 14-foot poles from one window to the next window, drove down London like that. Up at Liverpool, same poles we'd been collecting for the day up there. This police inspector come up. He said, I'm giving you 10 minutes to take that banner down. He said it's illegal to put a banner up in the street like this. If it's not down in 10 minutes, I'm fetching a van to take it away. You come back, little Trojan vans what they've got. They're probably on about 4 metres, 3 metres long. And they said, get in there. And we took banner down, like in very much, these poles about 14, 15 foot long. We're trying to thread them in like, well, you'd got so much sticking out of the back of the doors like. He said, we can't go like that. Jeff Poulter says, well look, I'll tell you what we can do. He said, let's put the banner up and we'll march behind the van to the police station. He said, get in there, we'll find a way to get there.
On the marches, we had all our own songs, you see, so you could, we are women, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives. We used to sing and all them, like, and tell a few jokes. It were great. We are women, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives side by side with our men who work the nation's mind. United by the struggle.
It's the women's song which is important. And it's a beautiful song, and that gets you in the heart, I think.
I never thought life would be this way, day after day for the cause. But when she said the things she said, well, my heart, it bled and drowned. She stabbed us all in one big thud, but she'll never bring me down. And I'll tell you now, I've come too far to drop or to retreat. And as we chant or cuss or rant, I won't accept defeat. It's roots, it's blood, it's home, it's love. We'll rise above with pride. We've much to lose, but fight we will. We've got no place to hide. And whilst you languish with your lot, I pray one day you'll burn and rot. The world will know the truth one day. What really happened, you will pay. I never thought that hate would rise inside my inner soul. I'll get my coat, lift up my head. Here we go. Here we go, here we go.
Who is the enemy? I tell you what the enemy is. It's the oldest enemy in the whole of our history. It's disease, it's poverty, it's ignorance. That's the enemy that we now have to face. But we've not lost the spirit of socialism. It's still on the agenda. Whilst ever the capitalist system is in crisis, socialism is there to be practiced, and we have to practice it everywhere we are, here in Britain, here in Durham, on local authorities and everywhere where we've got the opportunity. always be socialism on the agenda while there's this poverty in this country and elsewhere. My message to you is, never surrender.
And you know how children like to play sort of gang fights of one thing or another. It might be cowboys and Indians, it might be aliens and spacemen. It was always miners and pickets. And they used to kind of like reenact the Orgrave. Most of them wanted to be pickets. The ones who, you know, were kind of not the stronger ones got forced into being the police.
Margaret Thatcher were a dirty word, really. I didn't really know who she was. She was kind of a demonic witch-like figure to us as kids. Sort of a playground baddie. You know, we'd make games up about her and somebody would be Margaret Thatcher and you'd run away from them. It were all that kind of thing. We had a little poem that we used to do about Margaret Thatcher and it went like this. Here's Margaret Thatcher, chuck her up and catch her, squish, squash, squish, squash, there's Margaret Thatcher.
In our little valley, they closed the colliery down, and the Pithead Baths is a supermarket now. Empty journeys red with rust, going to lay amidst the dust. Oh, the Pithead Baths is a supermarket now. For it's hard, it's hard, harder than they'll ever know. And if they don't play the game, then the price of coal's the same. And the Pithead Baths is a supermarket now.
Very proud to have been involved. Even though it was such a hard time, we all learned a lot of lessons from the strike, I think.
I think it made me more confident, like it did all the women that were involved. And I done filming and television and news programmes and question time and things like that. Before the strike, I would have done it, but I would have been really, really nervous. Now I'm just a little bit nervous.
We can always walk with our heads held high, can't we? And the day that they went back to work, I thought, I don't want to go into Bolsover. And then I thought, yes, you bloody do, because you can walk into Bolsover with your head held high. And that's how I felt.
All through the coalfields at that time, they know that they were going to close the vast amount of pits, but we never expected an whole industry to close.
At one time we could sit across from the employer and bargain collectively with him on an even basis. That's no longer the case, following what happened.
Families became kind of, what do they call it, cyclical unemployment. You know, and that wasn't their fault. That was because the livelihoods that they expected to move into just disappeared overnight, virtually. It was a real community. And so when the mines went, that community was destroyed, basically.
You still feel angry about it 30 years after. You just sit there sometimes and you start thinking about things. It shouldn't have happened like this. Why has it happened like this? I mean, we're a group of men, the miners, and there'll never be another group like them. There aren't. They were brilliant men.
I think it's the anger, the injustices that were dealt to decent, hard-working people who were called by the Prime Minister of the day the enemy within. It's an anger that 2 of our people were murdered and there's been no convictions, no inquiries. It's an anger that an industry's been destroyed.
It needs laying to rest in some ways, which I don't think will happen until we know, you know, and have answers to some of these questions about what went on.
And remember, there were 11,000 of us arrested, got criminal records to this day, just for defending the right to work, just for wanting to have a job, just for wanting to keep us families and things like that. It's got to be put right.
It's unfinished business, so it can't be forgotten.
Really, I'd just like to thank every miner what stuck it out to the end. No.
It's 30 years since Aubrey since Thatcher died, but the war against the poor won't go away. Now it's 0-hour contracts and anti-union laws. The spectre of the past still haunts today. Oh, we went down to Aubrey, I'm telling you, my friend, from Yorkshire, under Kent and from the Clyde. We did not go for glory, we did not go for gain. We were collieries